Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say, it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Tuesday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got a good show lined up today. We got my buddy Mark McGriff, former Gator tight end, will join us later in the program. But it's Tuesday morning, and that means we head on down to Ocala, and we're joined by good old Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show. Good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good morning, Shaner. How many McGriffs are there anyway?
We're gonna find out. It's very confusing.
Yeah, it is.
But we will find out how many we actually McGriffs. There are a bunch of them played Gator football, obviously. But we're going to talk to Mark McGriff, talk about his family. Had done so many great things here in the Gainesville community.
Yeah, they've been Gator royalty, that's for sure. Them and the Brantleys and a few others that I think of families that have really been great. So,
no doubt about it. Well, buddy, we always talk golf first before we get into college football. But U.S. Open, DeChambeau wins, and he played phenomenal. My other guy, Matt Wolff, he had his chances at 21 years old. Unbelievable what he did, but your thoughts on the U.S. Open?
Well, I mean, you called it a couple of weeks in a row. You learned Schauffele a couple of weeks ago, and he almost won. And then, of course, as you pointed out, Matt Wolff was, I mean, my gosh, this guy's phenomenal to be 21 years old. Yeah, he could have won that thing, a few putts had dropped. But no, my man, DeChambeau, okay? I've been a fan of his for a long time. I like his style, I like his game. He's approaching greatness now, Shane. If he can sustain, that's the big thing. Is you got to sustain. You can't be like, Jordan Spieth, who was my wife's favorite golfer, who's been like not a one-hit wonder, but a two-hit wonder, and all of a sudden disappear. Sustain's the key. But DeChambeau, if he sustains, in my opinion, could be one of the greats.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Jordan Spieth will be back. He's had a few issues here and there, and it seems like a lot of players go through that, but there's so many good young players out on tour. It's fun to watch, and but he had a phenomenal year. Played well pretty much week in and week out, it seems like, and congratulations to him. Well, buddy, it's game week, my man. Are you sleeping okay? Are you excited?
I am excited. I'm excited, and I feel so good that we've gotten here. Dan Mullen in his press conference points out that he can get on the plane and go into Oxford and find out that 10 of his players are not there, and they had to rebuild the offensive line in about overnight. That's what we're in, this pandemic and stuff. But it's uncertain, it's crazy, but it's football, and it's here, and finally, and I can't wait. I've been telling you this forever. This is my kind of season without the COVID. It's got the elements I love. It's got all filet mignon all the way through every game. And it's going to be the greatest schedule play in the history of college football starting Saturday. Now, granted, the games aren't as good as they will be, but my gosh, there's no relief in sight if you're in the SEC. And now we got, of course, finally wake-up call for the Big Ten back in. So it's going to be great. I'm excited about it. A lot of news going on there with that program, and I know you are too. And we won't get to go out to the stadium like we normally do and do what we do. But you know what? I can live with that for a year. As long as I know I got college football and it's there and I can get to it eventually, I can watch it and take part in some of the press conferences and write about it and talk about it. I'm a happy man.
Yep. Buddy, did you watch any football this past weekend?
Did I watch any football? About 25 hours for it.
Did you happen to watch any of Oklahoma State?
You know what? I watched about 2-3 plays.
And why was that?
Well, I just had other things to do.
Because they were playing Tulsa? Is that why?
Tulsa wasn't Tulsa, the game little team. Oklahoma State is a mystery team to me.
Yeah, but what my point was, I was trying to give you a hard time, buddy. Tulsa's one of those mid-majors that had Oklahoma State on the ropes in their own ballpark.
Yeah, really?
So,
Shane, I get it. I get it. I hear what you're saying, and good for you for being the champion of the small and medium schools. I just don't want to see it every Saturday afternoon. Okay.
I hear you. I hear you.
And by the way, you don't either. So
no, not every Saturday. No. Buddy, Coach Mullen had his press conference yesterday.
Yeah.
They announced they kind of changed up their staff titles. Usually that's to keep people happy, make a little bit more money. But Brian Johnson, I think now is the quote offensive coordinator. I believe he's the first black offensive coordinator in school history.
According to what the story I'm reading from Scott Carter from Warriors.com, that is correct. And Brian Johnson has earned his way. Not that others hadn't, but you're right about one thing. They divided up for different titles, and that's because they can give him more money. That's the way they were able to raise his salaries. They got an assistant head coach, and they got a co-offensive coordinator, and et cetera, et cetera. So they got to find ways to give him money. Not that Brian Johnson doesn't deserve it. He's been about as loyal as you can be. He's joined at the hip with Dan Mullen, and he's done a really good job. It's because of Brian Johnson that the quarterbacks all get the same number of reps every practice, which is unheard of. The top three guys all get to throw the same amount. So because why? He feels he's not so interested in just a starter. He wants the guys behind the quarterback room. Quote unquote, it really is a quarterback room. So Brian Johnson is congratulations to him. I think he's 33. I didn't think he was that old. I thought he was like 28, but he's been around for a while.
You got to remember Mullen and him. He was Mullen.
Yeah, quarterback.
Mullen was his quarterback coach out at Utah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So they have a great relationship, and he's done a wonderful job. I hate saying it, but he's not going to be here much longer.
Probably not. He'll be a head coach somewhere.
He will.
And by the way, not interrupt you. I'm sorry, but I just happened to think of it. Isn't there several other titles around too? Tim Newton's isn't he like the assistant head coach or something? And you got Hevesy and you got.
Yeah, I don't have it all written down here.
I don't either.
Everybody's an assistant head coach, or this, that, and the other. So it gets very confusing. But it's game week, and anything stand out from Coach Mullen's press conference that you heard yesterday?
Yeah, a couple things. Matter of fact, one of them is the missing people. And in this day and age of COVID, when he's not allowed because of the HIPAA law and all that stuff to tell us what's really going on. I said Newton, I meant Brewster, by the way. And in the you got a situation where these guys are not on the 3D roster. We're not blind. We can see that. Why are they not? And why are they not on the roster? And what are they? We know that there's changes. We got some reports yesterday. We know Ethan White was injured quite some time ago. He'll be back. I think what they're
there, buddy. Buddy froze report, up. There you are.
Miriam, I don't know what's going on here with this thing. The Kyrie Campbell apparently has I'm having internet problems this morning, I guess. Is opting out according to one report. I don't have that confirmed. And then of course we do. The curious one is Lorenzo Lingard. Where is he?
That I don't know. I do know that. I know they're very high on the Malik Davis and Dameon Pierce and Naquan Wright. They really like those three running backs. I think those are the three that you're going to see tote the ball the most this year. Not sure where Lingard falls in place. But back to Kyrie Campbell, buddy. Is he projected to be a high draft pick?
I don't know. And I'm not sure. We have no reports, no information. That's how it is. We just get this depth chart, and he's not on it. And the reports that we got were from people like Jason Higdon, first in Florida, who does a lot of recruiting, talks to a lot of coaches, and he's the one who said quite some time ago. People kept saying it's a rumor, and I hate to deal in rumors that he might opt out, and then he didn't show up. And then yesterday, the report said. Jason Higdon said, I guess it wasn't a rumor. As I basically told you, he's opting out. And by the way, we have no problem with that. I mean, we're disappointed for him, but if it's choice, if it's about health, if it's about his draft status, he has a right to do that. I don't think we need to shame people for opting out. Now, obviously, you don't keep your status when you're talking about opting out, as some did opening day, you remember. And the next day, all the young receivers were in the lineup. So you have to remember that that when you do that, it's your right, but there's a price to pay for it. If you're sick or ill or whatever, or you're worried about your family, that's all understandable. And I think they should opt out. If they don't really have their heart and soul in it, Shane, do you really want them out there?
No, not at all. I just think it's interesting that, and again, you said it's all rumors, so we don't really know, but why wait this long if he's been going through training camp? Why practice and then decide last minute I'm going to opt out? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But as you said, if he has a reason to do that, it's his prerogative. So, buddy, what else came out of Coach Mullen? I know Coach Mullen. Somebody called me about how Coach Mullen was praising the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, I thought about you, Shane. Mississippi boy that you are on the Mississippi mud. Treat to beat your feet on the Mississippi mud. I hadn't thought about this. I must confess, I heard it. I guess I heard it on Feinbaum. But think about this. What in the world is in the Mississippi water right now? I mean, Mike Leach at Mississippi State, good hire, all right? Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, and I asked Coach Mullen about that yesterday. And then you got Deion Sanders at Jackson State. That's a shocker to me. And then now the word is just out there being thrown around is, what if Hugh Freeze goes to Southern Miss? All of a sudden, you got a state full of good coaches in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, well, we know three of them are pretty good. Time will tell if Deion's going to be a good coach.
But you know what? He'll bring money, he'll bring fame, and he'll bring whatever. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to win the national championship. Of course, not in Jackson State, but I wasn't aware of the program until Brady Ackerman came on the show and talked to me about it. And that they got some money. They're an HBCU. You know all this. They had big crowds in the past. They've drawn 30,000 people regularly, and they seem to have be functioning at a pretty high level. Somebody coughed up some cash from Deion because Deion didn't come cheap.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what his contract's all about. But yeah, the SWAC is a good little conference, buddy. They get a lot of fan support. Obviously, people, it's very entertaining with the bands at halftime, the pregame shows. Buddy, that's something that you need to. And I want to say Bethune-Cookman now has joined the SWAC.
Really? Okay.
I know FAMU did. I think Bethune did as well. So that's something you need to experience, buddy. You need to go to a SWAC game.
Well, I was thinking about going there with Brady, but he's gone now. But he invited me out. Well, I mean, you had A&M, you had Southern, and all that sort of stuff, and those, and of course, you say Bethune-Cookman now. I mean, people don't realize the greatness that was Florida A&M. Jake Gaither, Jake Gaither was phenomenal. Eddie Robinson, the Grambling, we know about him. There were some great coaches, some great players. There were world-class athletes at Florida A&M. I mean, Olympic sprinters, Bob Hayes and all the way back then. And there were some great players who went on to play in the National Football League. A lot of people never heard of in the state of Florida played here. So I would like to see the HBC, as they call it, historical black colleges. I'd like to see it retained. I'd like to see the tradition of the pro. That's one of the bad things about the assimilation of the culture into one and all that. I remember when the high schools started doing that, and it was great for the students. They had they got rid of the segregated schools, but you had great programs, down where I lived at the time, down at Cocoa and and over in St. Pete, who were great schools, and and even here, to that matter, Howard Academy had some terrific football players that went on to the NFL. So I hate to see that part of the culture lost, but I understand the necessary reasons for doing it because it's obviously socially the right thing to do. But yeah, I hear it's really great that you would know. Did you go to any games when you lived there?
I did. My dad being a high school coach, and I can't remember the age. I was a youngster. We went to a game in Jackson between Alcorn State and Mississippi Valley State. And I think me and my dad were the only white people in the stadium, and it was packed, 45, 50,000 people. That's when Jerry Rice was playing with Willie Totten at Mississippi Valley, and then a guy named Lester Holt, who became a tremendous defensive back, was playing.
And he went on to be anchor of the NBC News at night. Oh, that's a different Lester Holt. I'm sorry.
Is it Lester Holt? One of those famous DBs that went on with the Raiders.
Yeah.
Played for Alcorn.
They had a few.
Yeah, so it was fun. I mean, I remember it to this day. So, buddy, we're getting ready for the Ole Miss Rebels.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on what you think might happen up in Oxford?
Well, I talking to Mullen in the presser yesterday, I asked him about Lane Kiffin, who's a great hire, by the way, I think, for them, about what he thought Lane Kiffin might do. So Dan went in there. He was an outsider, and you know that culture, Mississippi. And I asked him what it was like, and I asked him what's it like to assimilate in the culture of Mississippi. Can Lane Kiffin do it? And he was pretty favorable. He said, he talked about his experience in Mississippi. He said, I went into Mississippi as a Northerner. He says, a lot of questions about me. He said, I won a bunch of football games at Mississippi State, so they accepted me. My kids were local. They were born there, he said. And so they were okay. Megan and I, we won a bunch of games, so we got accepted. So they were okay. And he said he loved it, one of his favorite places to live. And he thinks that Kiffin's going to do well. His comments exactly where he said, it's good for Ole Miss to have a guy like that at the helm and to give that confidence. He says, I know in Mississippi they love their football. So he thinks it's a good program. Obviously they're not ready to compete, I don't think, at least what I know. I haven't seen it, but the reports and the depth and the issues and whatever. I think Kiffin is different enough. He knows he's obviously a great football heritage. He's been in the game. His dad, he's a smart coach. He never was a fit for Tennessee or really even USC. But I thought he found a home down in Florida Atlantic. But obviously this is too good to pass up. So, yeah, I think it's a good hire. Do I think they'll beat Florida? No. Do I think it's this so-called jinx for noon games in Mississippi? No, I don't buy into that. But it is SEC. It is Oxford. It is Florida and Ole Miss. It's going to be interesting. I think Florida wins that game. A couple touchdowns at least. I think the point spread's gone to 14 now, I believe. So I think, and I'm interested to know what the quarterbacks do. Plumlee is I heard Mullins say yesterday that he was about the fastest guy around.
He might be the fastest player in the SEC.
Yeah.
He could be the fastest player in the country.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize
making him a cornerback. They talked about making him a cornerback at one point.
Yeah, he's faster than anybody we have on our roster, hands down. Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. September is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking with Buddy Martin here. You can follow him on Twitter at Buddy Show. Tomorrow, remember that we will not have Coach Bobby Bowden tomorrow. We're going to reschedule him for next week. He wasn't feeling well, so we're going to do that next week. We're going to have Richard Cross from the Ole Miss Radio Network, who works for the SEC Network and ESPN, join us, talk about the Rebels tomorrow. So, Buddy, you think we're going to win by a couple touchdowns? I think it's going to be a dogfight early. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because of all the games that I've seen on TV so far. It just seems like, in game one, coming off this long layoff with no spring ball, teams are kind of sputtering around. But I hope you're right. I think our defensive line and linebackers have to play well for us to win this game, in my opinion.
You bring it up a lot. And again, we're just dealing with, what we hear, what coaches tell us. We talk to the coordinators, we talk to them, we talk to the players. They're talking a lot about how good those young defensive linemen are. And they feel confident. They're going to play, they play 8 or 9 of them, whatever. And they're not experienced as much. I can't wait to see some of them, though, and see those linebackers play, because we've been hearing things. And I think the defense could be really good.
I do too. I just think in the SEC, they always talk about it being a line of scrimmage league.
Yeah,
I think I'm fine with the offensive line, because here's the deal. Everybody complained about the O-line last year. We couldn't run the football. I don't give a damn if we can't run it this year. If we can pass protect, that's all that matters. You got to play to the strength of your team. I think we will run the ball better this year, but we've got to win the line of scrimmage at least on the defense side of the ball. And like I said, we'll find out come Saturday how these young guys, how they play. And I think their future's bright, but we're missing some big dudes.
Yeah, well, that's going to show up at some point in time. But I think they're so fast and so interchangeable in that secondary. I mean, they got guys who can play every position. I think Grantham is really at his peak right now. We talked to Marco Wilson about it yesterday. He's talking about how good they look. They're very confident. They think they can, shut down most people. And if they can get any kind of pressure, as you point out, I'm anxious to see what number one can do and a few other guys out there, We heard a lot about them. And again, we've only heard, we haven't seen them, but we think that they're going to be kind of special. And I think, Florida's sitting on top of a special season. But what do we know? What do we know? We don't know anything because we haven't seen. You've seen them at a scrimmage, at least. That's more than I've seen. So we'll see what it's like. But Florida rolling out, could win, should be 2-0 going to Texas A&M. Then they got LSU, Missouri. And then by the time we get to the open day, we'll have a better picture. A lot of people think that everybody will lose a game or maybe even two. Urban Myers, who's on my podcast on Best Fridays of Football, says he's on record saying he thinks everybody in the league will lose 2 games. What do you think?
I don't know if everybody's going to lose 2 games. That's, time will tell. I do think it's going to be tough. I think there's some good games this week. I want to get your thoughts before we let you go, buddy, on what you think is going to happen with FSU and Miami.
You know what? That is a really strange situation. And that program is on the brink of maybe collapsing if they're not careful. Now they've lost their head coach to COVID. The quarterbacks, that's looking terrible. They're having players opting out. Players are talking about leaving. And FSU is in a potential dark time. And, it's not easy to rebuild that. And people are blaming it on Jimbo Fisher still. And that it was his fault. That's him in a mess. FSU, the once proud program, and someone said it yesterday, I forget who, about, they're like 1-11 against the last 12 ranked teams. FSU, a team that whenever you guys played them, were always in the top 5 and mostly top 3. This became a great program, as you point out, Coach Bowden, who we sure hope he's okay. And, he had them at the top of the world. And Coach Spurrier likes to talk about the fact that we play them, they're always in the top 3. And this is the FSU, and now they could be hanging on for life. So that's a really, I think Miami look really good. I think King is a real deal. They look good. They tackle good. They play hard. Manny Diaz has got that team. I would hate to see Florida play that team this year. Last year, they made a bunch of mistakes. But I think this Miami team, and by the way, I hate their turnover chain. It looks like something to get out of a Cracker Jacks box,
Yeah.
But anyway, I think Miami is good. I don't think FSU is going to have much of a team.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sold on Miami. I thought Louisville had either one of the worst defensive game plans I've ever seen at the collegiate level, or their players had so many busted assignments that's why Miami had so many explosive plays. It was nothing Miami was doing. It was because Louisville was not in the right position at all. Buddy, you could have taken it to the house on some of those because so many guys were out of position for Louisville.
Now, wait a minute. Don't be dissing me like that now. You never saw me play.
I heard you had some speed back in the day. Who you got on the show tonight?
Well, I got you for one thing, and Tony Bonhart is going to give us set us up for the SEC and talk about some of these teams. And is it a lay down for Georgia and Alabama? Where does Florida factor in? And what's this season going to do when you're playing a heavyweight champion every week? The residual impact of that. So that's tonight on the program. I'm excited about that. And tomorrow we have the voice of the Gators, Mick Hubert. You had him on recently. He'll be on with us tomorrow. So looking forward to that. So here we are, game week. It's time to go.
No doubt about it. Well, buddy, we appreciate you joining the program. We'll talk to you tonight, my man.
All right, Shane. Look forward to having you on tonight. Thank you.
Yep, that's Buddy Martin. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We're going to take our first time out of the pro. When we come back, we're going to be joined by former Gator tight end Mark McGriff. You're watching and listening to the Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
This is Shane Matthews. Thank you for listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. You can also check me out on Inside the Huddle with Steve Russell and the head ball coach Steve Spurrier. Tune in every Tuesday during football season on WRUF 98.1 FM, 8:50 a.m. at 10 o'clock in the morning, or find us on your favorite podcast platform. We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. GTS Handyman Services, whether you need carpet cleaning or expert painting in Gainesville, they are the team to hire. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance, Pomodoro Cafe, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith Personal Injury Attorneys, Orange Theory Fitness, PRP Regeneration Specialist, and Dowling Signs. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition with Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got some technical difficulties, and not sure if we're on the air or not. Everything is frozen up on my computer screen here. Evan, are we good? Anyway, Mark McGriff, can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
Okay, there we go. There's Mark McGriff, former tight end, with his State Farm, Jake from State Farm golf shirt on. How you doing, Mark?
Coincidence. You know, like most guys, I just grab and get dressed in the morning.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, we appreciate you joining the show. First of all, when I have the former players on, I like to go back to their younger days. You're a Gainesville kid, grew up in Gainesville, probably played multiple sports, went to Gainesville High School. Just talk about when the recruiting process came about, what made you want to be a Gator?
Long time ago, obviously, you know this. Yeah, was a Gainesville High guy, grew up going to Florida football games, sold Cokes through middle school and high school there to make some extra money. Was at almost every game growing up. Got to high school, and my father, after I started being recruited, my father said, there is other places to go play football. Let's go take a look. So we would either drive after a Friday night game or get in a plane and go somewhere. And I went to almost every Southeastern Conference stadium during my high school career. I took a lot of visits during recruiting, but ultimately decided to stay home. Charlie Pell was the head coach then. He was a neighbor of ours, a friend of ours, and thought the program was going in the right direction and felt like I could be happy here. So I stayed home.
When you look back at your career, I mean, obviously, you know, sometimes people say, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. You know, growing up in Gainesville, how was it going to college in the same town you grew up going to high school and as a young kid?
You know, in some ways it was tough because, as you remember, we were almost quarantined back in the day in Yon Hall, and so we didn't mingle with the student population like they can now. So I probably didn't experience as much, but I also knew a lot more than guys coming in because I was from here. I knew what restaurants to go to and what places to go to, and had a lot of friends on campus that I graduated high school with or I knew. So it's a little bit different, but you know, at the end of the day, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I grew a lot as a person and as a young man, and we had some pretty tough times back in those days, and you just had to learn to live with it and deal with it.
Yeah. So, Mark, when you look back at your Gator career, as you mentioned, Charlie Pell was the guy that recruited you, but Galen ended up being the head coach your entire career. Just talk a little bit about, you know, coaching changes. And I want to hear some good Yon Hall stories because people love to listen and hear about Yon Hall.
It depends on if it's a family program or not, to be honest with you. But yeah, there's plenty of stories. Galen and my staff's making fun of me because they see me through the window coming in this morning. They don't know me as a football guy; they just know me as their boss. So, Galen had a great offensive mind, and we did some pretty good things. We just, with the violations that we had occurred, we weren't as deep and we weren't as strong as we probably could have been. When Emmett Smith came on board, we changed the offense pretty drastically, and I became a blocker more than a catcher. But that was great. I mean, to get to play with one of the greatest running backs in the history of college and pro football, that was awesome. Jan Hall stories, I mean, you were there, so you know a lot of them. But I mean, it would go from guys putting masks on to running through the parking lot and jumping in the pool naked, to newspaper bins being tossed at people's windows, to watching who was coming out of the dorm in the morning that wasn't supposed to be there. I mean, you could probably do a whole week show's worth on that with former ball players, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So when, I tell everybody, and you've been around football a long time, once you got done, you've had boys that have gone to play college football. You got one working at South Carolina. We'll get into that here in a minute. But
Okay.
Don't you think it's hurt college football, and maybe not just college athletics, getting away from the athletic dorms?
Absolutely. There's not as much accountability, but that could be a societal thing as well. But it's not as much accountability. I don't think the players connect on the level that we all connected. I mean, you and I go back 30 plus years and we still talk. And, if we don't live in the same dorm and eat in the same dormitory meal place, we might not do that after you leave football. So, yeah, I think it's a tremendous disservice at this point, but, that's the world we live in too.
As a tight end, when you look back, do you sometimes say, you know what, if I'd just been born a little bit later, I could have been catching balls in the Steve Spurrier offense, like Kirkpatrick?
No, I just take credit for teaching Kirk everything he knows, to be honest with you. He was a different type of tight end than I was. My body type wasn't the same as Spurrier utilized, to be honest with you. But it would have been fun to play in that type of offense? Absolutely. But, I came along when I came along, and you and Kirk came along when Spurrier came along. And, I was part of that because I was working and finishing school at that time. So I feel like I was part of that because I was in the coaches' offices more than I was in my own office back in those days. So it was fun to be part of it, even on the sidelines.
Mark, when you look, we're speaking with Mark McGriff here on the Titan More Hotline. Mark, when you look back at your college career, is there one game, one moment that stands out the most in your mind?
Oh, it have to be the Auburn comeback in '86 when Kerwin came limping off the field and Ricky Nattil caught a ball in the end zone with one arm because his shoulder was separated. I believe I caught a couple passes in that game, which was rare for me to catch more than one pass in any game. But, to come back against a team, they were ranked in the top 5 at the time, and we beat them here with a lot of injuries and a lot of, that was the first year we were eligible to go to a bowl game after probation. And, we were okay, not great. We did some good things and we had some good games, but that would have to be one that sticks in my memory.
What was your favorite game to play in? A lot of guys, it's because, the Florida State rivalry, because you either played against them or with them in high school. But some guys love that Florida-Georgia game as well. Was there one that you preferred more than the other?
My answer is going to probably surprise you. I love Florida-Georgia, but I went to Florida-Georgia every year from probably when I was 8 until I got into college. So it was always special, and special running out of that tunnel and seeing that. But I'd been there a bunch. Florida LSU was always a great matchup, but I'd been there a bunch. I'll tell you honestly, the one game that I loved to go to, and it's going to sound strange to a lot of people, was University of Kentucky, because I hated them. They were nasty. Their fans were the meanest I'd ever encountered in college. It was always late in the year. It was always after the LSU, Auburn, Georgia trio of games that were miserable to go through. And we'd go up there and we'd beat them. And it was just nasty. And I got more pleasure out of beating Kentucky than some other games.
That's interesting. Speaking on Mark McGriff here on the Titan MR hotline. Don't forget, folks, tomorrow, no Bobby Bowden. We're going to reschedule him for next week. We're going to have Richard Cross from the Ole Miss Radio Network and the SEC Network join us. So, Mark, I can't tell you how many times people ask me this, and I'm sure you get it too, but we got millions of people watching this show, and they're going to watch it later. Give us the rundown of the McGriff family related to Gator football, because I'm sure you get, as Travis is your brother, but Travis is, I believe, your nephew. Your dad played. Lee is your uncle. Let kind of give us a timeline of how it all transpired.
I'll do my best, okay? Because we technically are cousins, second cousins to be technical, but we don't even do that. We just call each other cousins. But my father played football and baseball at Florida in the late 50s, early 60s. Was a All-American baseball player for 2 years. Lee McGriff's father, Jack McGriff, boxed and I think ran track in the early 50s. Lee McGriff played for Florida in the 70s as a walk-on receiver, later coached in the 80s. And I came along in mid to late 80s and played tight end. Travis played wide receiver, who's my cousin, played wide receiver in the mid to late 90s. My oldest son walked on in 2011 or 12 with Will Muschamp and played for 4 years. So there's I think that's 5 generations that have suited up for the Gators.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. No question about it. You know, you've been very involved with high school sports, having 3 boys. You got 3 more boys coming along. As you mentioned, you had one go to Florida, one go to South Carolina, one to FAU. Talk about what your boys are doing these days.
Probably, you know, other than having all my children, having graduated my 3 oldest at this point is one of the proudest things that I've been involved in. But Ryan, my oldest, played high school quarterback at Gainesville High School. Had a really great job, really great career there. Went to the state semifinals in their senior year. Walked on at Florida and was part of that team for 4 years. Nick, my second son, had another great career at Gainesville High School, played tight end. We went to the state championship game and got rocked by Miami Central one year. And he's graduated from South Carolina. Now he's on the staff as a coach there. Went to play for Steve Spurrier, ended up playing for Will Muschamp, which was just kind of irony at the time. My third son, Kyle, graduated also from Gainesville High School, went to play at FAU and has graduated this past May. So my 3 oldest have graduated college already, and I have I don't know how much further you want me to go, but yeah. I've got a 10th grader at Buchholz High School, and first time to have a McGriff in my family go to Buchholz High School. And then I have a 4th grader and a 3-year-old. So yep. I got quite a few years on the football field, hopefully.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Mark, so, you know, eventually you took over State Farm Agency from your dad. How many years have you been doing that, and do you enjoy it? Have you met Jake from State Farm?
No, I haven't met either one of Jake's from State Farm. And actually, funny story how I got here. My dad always wanted me to come work for him, and I kept saying, Dad, that's not cool. It's not what I want to do. You wear a shirt and tie every day, and you sit behind a desk. And I was working for the athletic department 20 some odd years ago, and Ryan was born. And I went a couple of weeks without seeing him because I'd go when he'd be asleep and I'd come home and he'd sleep. And I finally called my dad and said, I got to do something different. So I actually went to work for my father, left, became an agent for another company for a couple of years, became a State Farm agent 20 years ago next month. I had my own office across town. Dad and I merged offices in 2007. He retired in 2010. I took over his portion of the business and have been in this building ever since. So love what I do. It's something different every day. I don't know all the ins and outs of the technical side of this business anymore because, I mean, I had to get my wife to come in here and set this up for me, so, or I might not be on here. But, you know, got a great staff, got a great company to work for, and I'll do it as long as they'll let me do it.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. Speaking with Mark McGriff on the Titan MR hotline, former Gator tight end. So speaking of playing tight end, back pretty much when you were playing, the SEC was ground and pound. Who was the one guy in your career that you know, when it came game week for whether it was Auburn, Georgia, whoever it was, and you had to block those defensive ends or defensive tackles, you're just like, man, this is going to be a long day. Who was some people that stood out that you just hated going up against?
Ron Sancho from LSU, if you remember that name.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Brooks, Alabama, was a monster, a beast. But quite honestly, I probably got more out of practicing against Clifford Charlton and Alonzo Johnson and Pat Miller on the practice field on a daily basis than that made me a better tight end to be able to go against these guys on the other team at the college level, because we had some outstanding outside linebackers, defensive ends back in those days, and I had to see them every day.
Mark, I'm trying to remember, were you a freshman in '84?
Yes.
Okay, so you were on those 84.
I was redshirting.
The 84-85 teams, a lot of people talk about the talent level that were on those teams. Mm-hmm. They kind of got a raw deal. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, because, you know, I know Ricky very well, Neil Anderson, that whole crew. They're still upset that nothing is portrayed anywhere around campus as them winning an SEC title. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Definitely a legitimate title team. Absolutely, without a doubt. The 84 class that we signed, that Coach Pell signed, was the last full class, I believe. The most talent that I've probably ever been involved in my career across the board. As far as offensive line, you hear the stories about the Great Wall, the receivers that we had, the quarterback that we had that, you know, was kind of almost like you. He was on the bottom of that depth chart not too long before the season started, and next thing you know, he became a great player. Defense would stop almost anybody today. You know, 35 years later, they could go on the field and probably play against any team that they had to today. Just loaded with talent. And, you know, I can't speak for the athletic side of why. I mean, most of us, I'm guessing, still have our rings, and we still have some paraphernalia that says we're SEC champions, and you know, but that's as far as we could go at that point. So would it be nice to honor that team? There's been efforts over the years to try to get it recognized in some fashion, but for whatever reason at this point, the administration is not wanting to go down that street. So
tell me some of the names in your class, your signing class.
Oh gosh, Todd Gatlin, Jeff Roth, Rondi Weston, Brian Massengill. Oh gosh, Daryl Woolard. You're asking me to remember a lot.
Yeah,
my kids tease me all the time.
Right. Because all those guys were, when I came in as a true freshman, y'all were all seniors.
We were all seniors, juniors or seniors at that point. Clifford Charlton.
Yeah, you saw that 84-85 team, you know, with Kerwin at quarterback. And you've been around. You saw a lot of the teams in the 90s. You know, in 90 we won the SEC, but we're not declared champs. 96 wins the national title. 06 and 08. You're probably a little biased, but do you think that team was more talented than any of those other championship teams?
You know, the 96 team was probably equally as talented, and with the addition of Coach Spurrier and the offense schemes that you guys did, probably would be a good ball game. I think the 08 team was a little better than the 06 team. That's just my opinion. But I'd love to see it. I mean, I'd cancel everything I could to watch an 84 team against anybody just to see. And I am probably a little biased. I don't disagree with you there.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, everybody loves the team that they grew up played with. Let me ask you this: your son Nick, as you mentioned, went to South Carolina to play for Coach Spurrier. Coach Spurrier leaves, Muschamp comes in, but he's now working for Will Muschamp. Tell us, does he enjoy that?
Are you asking me inside about how Will's work ethic is? I think everybody.
Well, I think everybody knows how Will Muschamp works, but you know,
my family has a little backstory with the Muschamps. The Muschamps grew up in Gainesville, as a lot of people know, and Will's father was the headmaster at Oak Hall for 20 some odd years. My junior year in high school, we convinced Will's oldest brother, Mike Muschamp, to come be the quarterback at Gainesville High School because he was talented and could play, and we didn't have a per se quarterback. So I've known the Muschamps for many, many years. Will was always around my house and playing basketball and doing this and that until they moved. So when Will came back here and brought Ryan on to Florida, it was just circumstance that when Steve decided to step down, all of a sudden my phone starts ringing and it's some of Will's family and Will, and they, hey, I might have a chance at this. And my son had called me and said, Dad, I just want to come home. I just want to come back to Gainesville. I said, no, just sit and wait and see who gets the head job. You didn't go to school there for the head coach. You went to school there for the experience. Then Will got named the head coach, and Nick was a long snapper for South Carolina and was doing a great job. Right before his senior year, he tore his thumb up really bad, and you need that to snap the ball. They were very nice and offered and knew what Nick possibly could do and offered him an opportunity to be a student assistant his senior year. So he took that chance. Then he went through the grad assistant role, and now he's an assistant, and he does special teams and linebackers. And you know, other than the long hours, I think he enjoys working for Will. But you know what you're getting into if you go to work for Will Muschamp.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're speaking with Mark McGriff here on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. A few more minutes with him. Mark, so what are your thoughts? You know, we had the Spurrier era, the Urban Meyer era, then we had a little downtime. Now Dan Mullen's back. This is year 3 for Dan. We've won 21 games. Your thoughts on what Dan Mullen's doing with the Gator football program?
You know, I think from the minute he stepped off the plane in Gainesville 2.5, 3 years ago, he's done all the right things. And I think he continues to do the right things, and I think he continues to recruit the right young men to come here and be part of the University of Florida. I think you and I both know that this is a results-oriented business nowadays. The money is so great. If you're not winning, you're not staying around. So for him to stay and for us to continue to be good and have the great program we've had in the past, we just got to win ball games. But I think from the outside looking in, he's doing all the right things, making all the right moves to be able to do that with this program.
Got a text here for you on the Titan MR text line. It comes from Jim. Mark, did you think that Emmitt Smith would be a superstar and eventually become the all-time leading rusher in the NFL?
Absolutely. We knew Emmitt was special from the minute he got on the practice field. Now, did we know he was going to be the all-time leading rusher in the NFL? Who knows? But we knew he needed to be on the field, and we actually lobbied the coaches down in Miami when we were getting drummed his freshman year, put his butt on the field because he's going to make a difference. And I think, if I remember, he came in late in the game and ran for like 30 or 40 yards on 2 or 3 carries, and we all went, see, we told you.
And then a couple of weeks later, isn't that when he had a big day at Alabama?
Oh, Alabama. Yeah, absolutely. Just shredded them. 200 and something yards. And that was Emmitt Smith from that on. But, I mean, I would say most everybody that had watched Emmitt practice and prepare knew he was special and different than most of the other running backs we'd all played with. And, you know, I had played with Neil Anderson and Lorenzo Hampton and some guys that were pretty good, really, really good, obviously. John O. Williams was one of them I played against in high school and also. But Emmitt was just special.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, Mark, we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. You do a lot of great things in the Gainesville community, and we'll talk to you soon, my man.
Appreciate it, bud. Thanks.
Yep. That's Mark McGriff from State Farm. Join us here on the Titan MR Hotline. We're going to take a final time out of the program. When we come back, we'll wrap this show up.
Hey, Gator Nation, this is your former head ball coach, Steve Spurrier. Check out our show, Inside the Huddle with Shane Matthews and Steve Russell, every Tuesday during football season on 8:50 a.m. and 98.1 FM WRUF at 10 o'clock a.m.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
GTS Handyman Services. Whether you need carpet cleaning or expert painting in Gainesville, they are the team to hire.
Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Wrap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Radware, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Tuesday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We had some technical difficulties today. Thanks for hanging in there with us, folks. Let's see. This Day in Sports is brought to you by GTS, Gainesville's premier maintenance company. Whether you need carpet cleaning or expert painting, fences mended, or any handyman services, call GTS at 352-363-6622. This Day in Sports, in 1990, Andre Dawson steals his 300th base and is the only player other than Willie Mays to have 300 home runs, 300 steals, and 2,000 hits. That's brought to you by GTS, Gainesville's premier maintenance company. Don't forget, tomorrow we will not have Coach Bobby Bowden. We will have him next week. We're going to have Richard Cross, who works for the SEC Network and ESPN, also the Ole Miss Radio Network, join us to talk about the Rebels. We'll also have JC as well. I want to thank Mark McGriff and Buddy Martin for joining the program today. Be safe out there, folks. This show is a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Take care. See you tomorrow.